from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. And there ain't no fucking pencils, you know. Okay, so I've had really mixed feelings about watching this ever since the trailers started presenting themselves. I was interested, I was curious. While at the same time, those girl boss movies of recent Hollywood, they could potentially do a lot of wrong. I didn't know what I'd be getting into. The John Wick franchise is getting long in the tooth for what it is. I had hesitations, but I went in, tried to keep an open mind, and I was not disappointed. Now, this movie is fun, it's action, exciting. It's basically what you'd expect from a John Wick film. That basically makes this the 5th film in the franchise as an entry as a spin-off. Now, of course, I'm sure you all gathered from the trailer that Ballerina is a story. It's a revenge tale, basically, about a young woman who's grown up, trained in the same kind of world that John Wick is, same actual organization that brings him up, and ultimately she wants vengeance, revenge, justice against those who killed her father when she was a young child. It is, again, essentially the John Wick story. You know, you're doing your thing, all of a sudden something comes up, and you need some payback. Standard fare, right? Now, it appears to me, based on the storyline, and those of you who've seen the trailers, you know that John Wick is in this film, and it is a bit more than just a cameo. He actually does have a role in the film, and he appears at 2 separate points. A little bit before the halfway point, and then in the finale. Now, what I wanted to figure out, where I was most concerned, was where in the John Wick timeline would this story exist? Now, the first appearance of him, just prior to the halfway point, is very firmly rooted in about the middle of the 2nd film. So it should be noted that, contrary to what I thought, I got my time frames mixed up. I thought this was taking root within the confines of John Wick 2 as far as the timeline goes. It was actually John Wick 3, where there is one particular scene that's rooted in about the middle of that film. Now, where I am a little bit confused in is the 2nd scene in which John Wick takes place in seems to be contradictory from what I remember occurring in part 3 and part 4. There's something off. And by that I mean when John Wick appears, and I'm not going to go into kind of real spoilers here, I'm just going to say he's not being hunted. And from John Wick lore, continuity, I understand that from the very end of part 2 through to the end of part 4, the man is being hunted nonstop. And yet, in his final scene at the end of Ballerina, he apparently is not. He is there because he is contracted for a hit. I don't see how that's possible under the current state of where he is in these films. So overall, if I were going to have any problem with the film and this plot, that would be it, because it doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm scrolling through IMDb in between cuts and recording this, and because I originally thought it was part 2 that this was taking place in, I didn't have as much of an issue with it. But the trivia section here in IMDb specifically lists that this takes place between part 3 and part 4. Now, it's been about a year and a half or so since I watched these films. They're not 100% crystal clear in my head, but that doesn't jive with my memory very much. Also of note, and this is something that actually surprised me because I didn't realize it, it remarks here that this was Lance Reddick's last film before he died. I was always under the impression that he passed away right after filming John Wick 4. So I thought his appearance in this film was some really brilliant deep fake CGI. I'm thinking, okay, they finally got this technology down and it works when they do it right. No, I guess he was actually there, which prompted me to do a little bit more reading and found out that this film coming together and as decently as it is actually something of a minor miracle, considering this was originally under Len Wiseman film and he was making it, and apparently, which I need to read more on, he got fired, and Chad Stahelski okay, was hired to take over and reshot most of the film. Looks like it was 2 to 3 months worth of reshooting, if this trivia is correct. So how much was from the original script? How much is that? I don't know. So Ian McShane, brilliant as always. I've been watching him since like 2004 in Deadwood. He's just, I don't know if he's having a rough time or whatever, but like I said, he seemed to be a little bit shaky, a little bit unsteady, feeling a little bit on the frail side. And that is concerning to me. So I'm hoping he is okay, because it would be a loss indeed if he's gone. Ballerina runs 2 hours and 4 minutes and is officially credited to Len Wiseman as far as directing, and that's interesting. But I'll be the first to admit that now that I'm reflecting back on it, I was starting to feel the runtime a little bit towards the end. Not terribly so, but I think I was starting to get a little bit squirmy. Now, granted, I had already had a long day at work, a really long day at work, and was feeling a little bit drained. I don't usually go to the theater after work on my busiest day, so that probably had an impact. She can't sit still tonight. Overall, would I recommend Ballerina? Absolutely. I would give it some dumb recommendation. I had fun with it. I was concerned about the girl boss elements, and I think the film did a suitable job breaking down, her name is Eve, the main character, her training to become kick-ass lady boss that she is in this film, where the little bit of a mixed feeling on that aspect comes is like, okay, she got the training, and you can see progressively through, after she graduates and starts running through her missions, you see a progression of improvement where she gets tougher, able to withstand more, kick more ass, become more proficient in her job. She does thoroughly get her ass handed to her and kicked on a regular basis throughout this film. I guess where the hesitation comes from on my part is that she also appears to bounce back a little bit too well, for my taste, maybe. Just given the fact that, you know, she's a tiny, petite lady played by Anna de Armas. And some of that defied my believability. Now, I also have to take into consideration that this is within the John Wick world, as they call it. You sit still, kitty. And you have to take that into account, right? Because obviously John Wick goes through some serious freaking crap throughout these movies, and he bounces back and he keeps going and going and going. So you have to wrap all that in there. If you have to judge by the same standards of whether it be male or female in the role or whatever. So I say overall it's a worthwhile entry, something I probably wouldn't hesitate to add to my library. It would be interesting to go back now and insert that between 3 and 4 and see how well it fits, just because of the aspect of John Wick's presence. Maybe potentially throws a little monkey in the wrench. So anyway, I need to find that out myself later on. Maybe I'll rewatch 3 and 4 and just see with that fresh in my head, maybe, if I have time. Anyway, that's Ballerina. Have you seen it? Are you planning on seeing it? If you have any thoughts, opinions, or whatever, word box, please share your thoughts below, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.